My mother handed off the wedding dress I saved 3 years to afford so my cousin could wear it first, then stood by as she altered it beyond recognition. Can you imagine saving every single penny for 3 agonizing years, pouring your heart and soul into a single, beautiful dream, only to have it ripped away and handed to someone else? What if that someone else was your own mother, and the dream was your wedding dress? What if that single act of betrayal spiraled into something that would change your entire life, forcing you to choose between family and your own peace? I was just 24, a veterinary receptionist, barely making rent. But I had this dream. Since I was 19, I'd kept this tattered magazine page tucked safely in my nightstand. It was the dress, vintage with delicate lace sleeves and a sweeping cathedral train. Everything I'd ever imagined. It cost a fortune for $1,000, but I was determined. $50 from every paycheck, religiously for 3 long years. And then it was mine. 8 months before my wedding I put it on. And I cried. Ugly, happy tears. I'd never felt so beautiful in my entire life. The woman at the bridal shop said I looked like a princess, and for the first time I actually believed her. I took it home, but my tiny apartment was no place for such a treasure, so I took it to my mom's. Her closet was huge, perfect. I'll keep it safe for you, she promised, her voice warm. I'm honored you trust me with something so important. I thought, finally a moment of connection. Then, for months after my engagement, my cousin Deanna got engaged. Her wedding was set for 2 weeks before mine. Now Deanna was always my mom's favorite. Thin, pretty, worked in marketing at some big downtown firm. My mom adored her. She talked about Deanna constantly, her fancy apartment, her handsome lawyer fiancé, her wildly successful career. At every single family gathering, it was the same old song. Why can't you be more like Deanna? Why are you wasting your life answering phones when Deanna's climbing the corporate ladder? I learned to tune it out. Arguing with Mom never changed a thing. It just wasn't worth the fight. 3 weeks before Deanna's big day, my phone rang. It was Mom. Her voice was nervous. That was unusual for her. Are you sitting down? She asked. I said no, but she could just tell me. And then she dropped the bomb. Deanna's wedding dress. The one she ordered online. It arrived damaged. Couldn't be fixed in time. Deanna was devastated. Didn't know what to do. And then, the words that would change everything. Deanna's the same size as you, honey. So I gave her your dress. My blood ran absolutely cold. Excuse me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She repeated it, just like that. She gave Deanna my wedding dress. Because Deanna needed it more. Because my wedding was still 2 weeks after Deanna's, so I had plenty of time to figure something out. And, oh, Deanna promised to return it right after. You should be happy to help your cousin during such a stressful time, she chirped. I couldn't speak for a long time. I just stood there in my kitchen. Phone pressed to my ear, trying to process. Asterisk, how could my own mother do this? How could she betray my trust like that? Asterisk, I finally managed to ask. Did you even ask me first? Well, no, I didn't have time, she snapped, suddenly defensive. Deanna was crying. She needed an immediate solution. And I knew you'd say yes anyway, because you're such a good, giving person. Then she had the audacity to call me selfish for even questioning it. Mom, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. I saved for 3 years for that dress. 3 years. It was the most expensive thing I'd ever owned. Deanna has no right to wear it before I do. Get my dress back. Immediately. But it was too late. Deanna already took it to be altered, she said casually, as if talking about a trip to the grocery store. The seamstress is taking in the waist, adjusting the hem. Minor changes. You probably won't even notice. I hung up, just like that. I had to. I felt like I was going to explode. My next call was to Deanna. I told her she needed to stop the alterations, to return my dress. And you know what she did? She laughed. Just laughed. Mom already gave me permission, she sneered. It's technically a gift now. You're being petty and jealous. And my wedding is more important than yours anyway, because I'm marrying a successful lawyer and you're marrying a mechanic. The sheer, vicious cruelty of it. You should be honored, she finished, that I even want to wear something of yours. My jaw dropped. The audacity. The absolute, brazen entitlement. I called the seamstress myself. explained everything, begged her to stop, but she said her hands were tied. Deanna was the client. Deanna made the decisions. She was sorry. 2 days later, the alterations were completed, and then Deanna sent me a photo. Her. In my dress. It looks better on me than it ever would on you. The message read, a cold, calculated jab. The fitted waist really shows off her figure. You should probably find something more forgiving for your body type. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I just stared at the picture, a hollow ache in my chest. Deanna wore my dress to her wedding. I didn't go. My mother called me ungrateful, jealous. My Aunt Sophia said I was trying to ruin Deanna's special day. The whole family, of course, rallied around Deanna, because she was the favorite, and I was just the receptionist who answered phones. I had to buy a new dress. It was simpler. Straight skirt, short sleeves, $800. It looked nice. When I tried it on in the shop, the woman helping me said I looked lovely. I thanked her, paid for it, took it home. But it didn't make me cry. Not like the other one. My wedding day arrived 2 weeks later. The weather was perfect. The flowers beautiful. My husband smiled, a genuine loving smile, when he saw me walking down the aisle. People told me I looked stunning. Said the dress was perfect. Said I was glowing. I smiled back, thanked them. But every compliment echoed in my head. The dress, the one hanging in Deanna's closet. The one with the lace sleeves and cathedral train that I saved 3 years to buy. The dress that was supposed to make me feel like a princess. During the reception, my husband took my hand, squeezed it gently. Lean close. Are you okay? He whispered. I nodded. I'm fine. He looked me in the eyes, his gaze steady and comforting. We're starting our life together, he said. That's what matters. I kissed him, and I meant it. But a part of me, a small, wounded part, was still thinking about that damn dress. 3 weeks later, my mom called. When can I come visit your apartment? She asked, her voice light, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just stolen a piece of my soul. You're not welcome in my home, I told her, my voice flat, firm. A long, stunned silence. Then a sigh. Are you still upset about that dress situation? Your wedding went fine anyway. You looked beautiful. You need to move on and stop being dramatic. I hung up. She called back immediately. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times that afternoon. So I blocked her number. That evening, she started calling my husband. He answered the first time. She told him to talk sense into me. He simply said, she's making her own choices, Mom, and hung up. 6 more calls. He blocked her too. 2 days later, my afternoon shift at the vet clinic. I was checking in a client with a sick cat when I looked up. There she was, standing in the waiting room. My mother. She walked straight to the front desk. We need to talk right now, she demanded, her voice cutting through the quiet office. I'm working, I told her, trying to keep my voice low. You need to leave. She raised her voice. I can't avoid you forever. I'm your mother. You owe me respect. The other client stared. The cat in the carrier started yowling, a frantic sound that perfectly matched my own internal scream. My boss came out. He looked at me. I shook my head, my message clear. He turned to my mother. Politely, he asked her to leave. She refused. I have every right to be here. My boss, a quiet man, finally told her she was disrupting business. He'd call the police. She finally left. But she stood in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the building. A silent, accusatory vigil. I watched her through the window until she finally drove away. That night, an email from Aunt Sophia. Subject line, we need to talk about this family. I opened it, even though I knew I shouldn't. She wrote that I was tearing the family apart over a piece of fabric. Deanna was devastated that I was holding grudge. Everyone was worried about my mother, who was suffering from so much stress because of me. I needed to grow up, forgive, and forget. At the bottom, a photo. Deanna, in my dress, thin, radiant, happy, the fitted waist, the perfect hem, smiling like she owned the world. I stared at that photo for a long, cold time. Then I closed the email and deleted it. It felt like tearing off a Band-Aid. Painful, but necessary. The next day, my lunch break, in the back room at work. I sat on the old couch, eating my sandwich, but I couldn't taste it. That photo, my mother's voice ringing in my ears. I started crying. just started. My co-worker, Melanie, came in. She saw me, sat down, didn't say anything, just waited. And then I told her everything about saving for 3 years, Mom giving away the dress, Deanna's wedding, the email, the photo. Melanie was shocked. My own sister would never do something like that, she said, her voice full of genuine outrage. What your mother did was wrong. And cruel. You have every right to be upset. Hearing her say it, a tension I hadn't realized I was carrying just relaxed. I'd started to wonder if maybe I was being dramatic, like my mother said. But Melanie made me feel like my feelings were real and valid, like I wasn't crazy. A few days later, Melanie invited my husband and me to Sunday dinner at her dad Tim's house. Just them. Casual. Relaxed. We went. Tim lived in this small, cozy house with a big backyard and a friendly dog named Cooper. He answered the door, hugged me like we'd known each other forever. Melanie's sister, Kathleen, was already there. She smiled, introduced herself, asked about our apartment, my husband's job. At dinner, Tim asked me about working at the clinic. He listened. He asked follow-up questions. He was genuinely interested in what I had to say. Nobody compared me to anyone. Nobody asked why I wasn't more successful. During dessert, Tim told a story about teaching Melanie and Kathleen to ride bikes when they were little. Everyone laughed. Kathleen teased him about being overprotective. I watched them, joking, easy-loving. And something ached in my chest. This was what family was supposed to feel like. This was what I'd been missing my whole life. For months after our wedding, I missed my period. Waited 3 days. Took a pregnancy test. Positive. 2 more tests. Both positive. I sat on the bathroom floor, holding the 3rd stick in my trembling hand. Pure, unadulterated joy rushed through me. And then, like a cold shadow, dread right behind it. I was having a baby. My mother would find out. Eventually. She'd think this gave her a right to be involved. She'd show up, demand to see her grandchild, act like nothing had happened, expect me to forgive her, because family is supposed to forgive. The joy and dread twisted together in my stomach until I felt sick. That night, I told my husband. He scooped me up, spun me around, kissed me fiercely. Then he saw my face. What's wrong? I told him I was terrified my mother would use our baby to force her way back into our lives. He sat me down gently, took both my hands in his. We won't let that happen, he said, his voice firm, unwavering. Any grandmother who would hurt you that badly doesn't deserve to know our daughter. Hearing him say it, out loud, it made me feel less alone. We agreed. Together. My mother would not have access to our child. We would protect our baby from the kind of toxic treatment I grew up with. We would build our own family, with people who actually cared. 6 weeks later, my mother found out. A cousin saw my husband buying baby supplies at the store, and told her. My mother called my husband's phone from an unrecognized number. He answered without thinking. She was crying, hysterical. I heard you're pregnant. I have a right to know my grandchild. You're being cruel, vindictive. I'm your mother. Nothing should come between a mother and daughter. My husband's voice was calm but resolute. You caused this situation yourself, he told her. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. She started yelling. He hung up, blocked the number. 2 days later, I wrote my mother a letter. My husband helped me. We sat at the kitchen table for over an hour, crafting every word, making sure it was perfect. I explained that her actions showed me she didn't respect me, didn't value my feelings. She gave away something precious without asking. She defended Deanna, made me feel like my pain didn't matter. She harassed me at work. And I wrote that I would not expose my daughter to someone who treats people that way. This wasn't about punishment or revenge. This was about protecting myself and my child. This was my final communication. I signed it, put it in an envelope, walked to the mailbox, dropped it in, heard it land with a definitive thud, went home, blocked her email, every phone number she had ever used. The relief was immediate, overwhelming. My shoulders relaxed. My jaw unclenched. I felt lighter than I had in months. That feeling? It told me I'd made the right choice. 3 days after I mailed the letter, my husband's phone rang. Unrecognized number. He answered while we were eating dinner. I watched his face change as he listened. He put it on speaker. Aunt Sophia's voice, shrill and accusatory, filled our kitchen. Your mother is heartbroken. She's having trouble sleeping. Her blood pressure is up. The doctor says stress is making her sick. You're causing all of this by being stubborn, refusing to forgive. Family is supposed to stick together no matter what. She made one mistake and you're punishing her forever. My husband interrupted, his voice firm. No, Sophia. My mother caused this herself when she gave away my wife's dress. She never apologized, never took responsibility. We are protecting our family. That is final. And Sophia started to argue. He hung up, blocked the number. Then he went into his phone settings and changed his number completely. He texted the new one to his boss and his friends. I'm done, he told me. Done letting your family harass us. A wave of pure relief washed over me. 2 days later, a notification. Someone added me to a group chat. Family discussion. 23 people. Cousins, aunts, uncles. People I hadn't spoken to in months. The messages were already flowing. My cousin Lisa, you're being unreasonable about the whole situation. My uncle, your mother is devastated. You need to be the bigger person. Another cousin, holding grudges is unhealthy. You should forgive for your own peace of mind. Aunt Sophia, your mother is having health problems because of your stress. Someone else, punishing your mother over a dress? Seems petty when you really think about it. Get over yourself. Family is more important than material things. The messages kept coming. Dozens of them. Every single person in that chat thought I was wrong. Everyone thought I should forgive. Move on. Nobody mentioned what my mother actually did. Nobody talked about the 3 years I saved. Or the alterations. Or Deanna's cruel words. They only talked about how I was tearing the family apart. I realized someone must have added me by accident. They'd created this chat to talk about me behind my back. One of them clicked my name without meaning to. I sat on my couch, reading every word. My hands were shaking, but I kept reading. I wanted to see exactly what they thought of me, how they justified what happened. The more I read, the angrier I got. But underneath the anger, something else. I felt stronger. Seeing their words in black and white made me realize I was right to cut them off. These people didn't care about me. They cared about keeping the peace, making my mother feel better, maintaining the family image. They didn't care that I was hurt. I took screenshots of the entire conversation, every single message. Then I created a folder on my phone, labeled it, Why We Made the Right Choice. I put all the screenshots in there. I knew there would be moments when I doubted myself, nights when I wondered if I was being too harsh. When those moments came, I could open that folder and remember exactly why I made this decision. I left the group chat without saying anything. Let them wonder. Let them feel uncomfortable. 6 weeks later, Melanie asked what I was doing that Saturday. I told her I had no plans. I want to throw you a baby shower, she said, her voice warm and excited. I already talked to my sister and my dad and some people from work. Everyone wants to celebrate the baby with you. I started to cry, right there in the break room. Melanie hugged me. You deserve to be celebrated, she whispered. The shower was at Melanie's apartment. Pink balloons, streamers. She made a cake that said, Welcome, baby girl. Kathleen brought her camera and took photos. Tim showed up with a huge stuffed elephant. My coworkers from the clinic came with gifts wrapped in pastel paper. About 15 people. Every single one of them actually cared about me. Nobody mentioned my mother. Nobody asked when I was going to reconcile with my family. Nobody suggested I was being too harsh. They just celebrated. They ate cake, played silly games, helped me open presents. Tiny clothes, blankets, bottles, diapers. Tim told me he was excited to meet my daughter. Kathleen offered newborn photos for free as her gift. Melanie gave me a journal for recording baby milestones. I looked around the room at these people. People who chose to be in my life, not related by blood, but more family than my actual family ever was. I felt so grateful. I thought I might cry again. This was what family was supposed to feel like. My daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in April. Labor was long, painful, but the moment they placed her in my arms, everything else vanished. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, tiny toes, a small, round face, dark hair like mine. She opened her eyes, looked at me, and something shifted deep in my chest. I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would never let my mother hurt this baby the way she hurt me. I would protect my daughter from toxic people, from cruel words, from favoritism. I would make sure she grew up knowing she was valued and loved. My husband stood next to the bed, tears in his eyes. He snapped a photo. Later, when I saw it, I barely recognized myself. I looked fierce, protective, completely sure of every choice I made. We named her Julia. We spent 2 days in the hospital. Nurses came in and out. My husband slept in the chair next to my bed. Melanie and Kathleen visited. Tim held Julia, called her beautiful. Everything felt peaceful. Then, on the second day, a nurse came in, looking uncomfortable. "There's a woman at the nurse's station," she said softly, "asking to see you. Claims to be Julia's grandmother." My heart started pounding. My husband stood up immediately. "We don't want any visitors we haven't approved," he told the nurse, his voice calm but firm. He walked out of the room. I sat in the bed, holding Julia close. I could hear voices in the hallway. My husband's voice, firm, steady. My mother's voice, high, pleading, crying. "I just want to see my granddaughter. For 1 minute. I have a right to meet the baby." My husband's voice, harder now, cutting through her pleas. "You have no rights here. If you don't leave, I'll call security. Go. Now." I heard my mother sob. Then footsteps. Walking away. My husband came back in. His jaw was tight. "She's gone," he said. I made sure she got on the elevator. Talked to the nurses. "She won't be back on this floor." I nodded. Held Julia tighter. My hands were shaking. My husband sat on the edge of the bed. Put his arms around both of us. "We're safe," he whispered. "I'll always protect you." 2 weeks after we brought Julia home, I was scrolling through Facebook while nursing her. My mother's post, long detailed, about being denied access to her only grandchild, how she raised me and sacrificed for me, and this was how I repaid her. The pain of being cut off from family, grandparents' rights. How cruel it was to keep a grandmother away from a baby. The post had dozens of comments already. "Aunt Sophia, heartbreaking." Cousins, crying emojis, messages of support. People I barely knew, "So sorry you're going through this." Then I saw a comment from Kathleen. "There are 2 sides to every story." She wrote, "Sometimes people make choices to protect their children. Boundaries are healthy." Several of my coworkers commented, agreeing with her. Someone from the clinic, "This mom is making hard choices to protect her child." Another coworker, "Her mother should respect her decisions." Tears welled up in my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. I had people on my side. People who saw through my mother's post, understood why I did what I did. I wasn't alone. 6 months passed. Julia grew, changed every day, smiled, laughed, started reaching for toys. My husband and I settled into a beautiful routine. Melanie and Kathleen visited often. Tim came for dinner, played peekaboo with Julia on the floor, his deep laugh filling our home. Life felt full, happy. Then one afternoon, Melanie called. Hesitant. "I heard something," she said, "through a mutual friend. Deanna's husband moved out. They're separating. Apparently, he'd been unhappy for a long time, but Deanna never saw it coming." I sat down on my couch, holding the phone. A strange satisfaction spread through my chest. Deanna's perfect life? Not so perfect after all. Her successful lawyer, husband gone. Her ideal marriage crumbling. I knew I shouldn't feel happy about someone else's pain, but I felt a grim satisfaction. Deanna treated me like I was less, wore my dress, mocked me, acted like her life was better. Now her life was crumbling. I didn't cause it, had nothing to do with it, but I wasn't sorry it happened. A month later, a card. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away without opening it, but something made me open it. Flowers on the front. Inside, "I've been diagnosed with high blood pressure, honey. My doctor says stress is making it worse. I'm on medication now. I hope you're happy. The message was clear. She was sick, and it was my fault. She was suffering because of my choices. I was supposed to feel guilty. Reach out. I stood in my kitchen holding the card. Julia napping. Husband at work. Read it 3 times. Walked to the trash. Threw it away. I didn't respond. Didn't call. Didn't feel guilty. My mother made her choices. I made mine. That night, after Julia went to sleep, my computer, my husband beside me, we worked on an email for over an hour, writing, rewriting. I wrote that she chose to give away my wedding dress. She chose to defend Deanna, to dismiss my feelings, to harass me at work, to create Facebook posts painting herself as a victim. She never once apologized, never took responsibility. These choices showed me who she was. I was not punishing her. I was protecting myself. And my daughter. Healthy relationships required respect. And she did not respect me. This was my final communication. I would not respond to cards, or calls, or messages. I would not engage with family members she sent to guilt me. I was done. My husband read it, suggested a few changes. We made it clear, firm. Then I sent it, watched it leave my outbox, felt my shoulders relax. Later, it was done. Melanie started coming every Sunday, groceries, holding Julia while I folded laundry. Kathleen came too, took photos of Julia in different outfits. Tim showed up one weekend, fixed our leaky faucet, without us asking. He sat on our living room floor, playing peekaboo with Julia. She giggled, grabbed at his glasses. I watched him make silly faces at my daughter. Something warm settled in my chest. This was what family was supposed to look like. Tim became Julia's grandpa, in every way that mattered. He showed up for her first steps, her first words. He brought her books, read to her in his deep voice while she sat in his lap. Melanie and Kathleen, her aunts. They spoiled her. Toys, clothes, park trips. They remembered her favorite foods, her bedtime routines. They loved her, without conditions, without expectations. Julia grew up surrounded by people who chose to be there. When Julia turned 2, we planned a small party. I made a cake, balloons. Tim arrived early, carrying a giant stuffed elephant, almost as big as Julia. She shrieked with delight, hugged it, dragged it around all day. Melanie brought homemade cupcakes with pink frosting. Kathleen set up her camera, took photos of Julia blowing out her candles. My husband lifted her up. She clapped, laughed. I looked around the room, at the people who showed up for my daughter. Not one of them was related to us by blood. Not one of them had to be there. They came because they wanted to. They loved Julia for who she was, not because of some family obligation. I didn't think about my mother once during that party. I didn't wish she was there. I didn't feel sad, or guilty, or angry. I just felt grateful for what we had built. A few weeks later, I was cleaning out the hall closet, looking for Julia's winter coat. I pulled down boxes and bags from the top shelf. A folded magazine page fell out of one of the boxes and landed at my feet. I picked it up, unfolded it. The wedding dress. The one I saved for 3 years. The one my mother gave away. I stared at the photo of the model in the lace sleeves and cathedral train. I remembered being 19, thinking that dress would make me special, hiding the page, every $50 deposit. The dress was never really about the dress. It was about wanting my mother to see me as worthy, to value me the way she valued Deanna, to be good enough. That dress couldn't have given me that. Nothing could have given me that, because my mother was never going to see me that way. I folded the page and put it in the recycling bin. Julia called for me from her room. I went to her. She was standing in her crib, holding her stuffed elephant. I picked her up. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her little body fitting perfectly against mine. My daughter would never question whether she was worthy. She would never have to earn love or prove herself. She had parents who protected her, family who cherished her. I had 0 regrets about the choice I made. Sometimes I wondered if my mother thought about what she lost, if she regretted giving away my dress, or defending Deanna, or showing up at the hospital, if she understood that her actions cost her a relationship with her granddaughter. But mostly, I was too busy being happy to care. I had Julia, my husband, Melanie, Kathleen. And Tim. I had people who showed up. And stayed. I built the family I always wanted. And my mother? She wasn't part of it. That was her loss. Not mine. You know, sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that lead to the most profound peace. This whole experience taught me so much about what family truly means, and that blood isn't always thicker than boundaries. Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with someone you loved, even family, to protect your own peace or the well-being of your children? What did you do? Tell me in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your stories.